God bless Mazda for never changing A, the lightning, or B, the bottle.
Welcome back to Car-Pinionated, our weekly show on cars, the car industry, and driving in general. I'm Doug Stewart, digital executive producer for Fox 61 in Hartford, and with me are my friends Jeff Buchholz from WBBM in Chicago, right there in the heart of it all, and Glenn Packman in the heart of beautiful Fairfield County. All right, guys. I've titled this episode, "The Miata is Always the Correct Answer." And because in so many ways, the Miata is the correct answer. Started in a brief history, has started selling them in around 1989, 1990. They've been popular ever since. 4 generations now. More than, well more than a million have been built. Um, and they keep to the same formula. This is the thing that, I'm sure it's very hard in Mazda land to, why don't we do this? Why don't we put a V6 in it? Why don't we, somebody is always, nope, not going to do that. We're going to keep the 4-cylinder rear-wheel drive, 2 people. There's no Mazda Miata SUVs coming down the pike. Interestingly, they went on sale for about $13,000 in 1989, which would be about $36,000 today. And their base price today is right around $30,000. So the price hasn't really changed. Like I said, 4 generations. The current generation's been going on for about 10 years. Jeff, you've had experience behind the wheels of several Mazdas. Why don't you tell us about them?
I have. So a little bit more backstory. The Miata came out at a time when um, a lot of car companies still sold sporty 2-seat, 2-door, or 2+2 vehicles. And the idea, the brief from Mazda was developing a roadster that had the spirit of a lot of the great two-place sports cars from Europe, for instance, from years earlier, your MGs and Triumphs and your Alpha Spiders and that kind of thing, without the really cranky mechanicals and electrics that beset so many of those cars, particularly in America.
Can I
And
can I
so,
can I
yes,
I need to make a Lucas Electric joke here.
the Prince of Darkness, of course.
Prince of Darkness, Lucas Electric. Each switch has three positions: dim, flicker, and off. Okay, go right ahead.
It's true. I mean, yeah. And as beautiful as a lot of those cars were, they were, really difficult to keep on the road and were constantly leaking or shorting out or breaking down or whatever. And so Mazda was like, well, let's come up with a car that answers a lot of those concerns. And so arrives the Miata on American shores, initially in your choice of 3 colors, red, white, and blue. Um, all with a black interior, a charcoal interior, and alloy wheels that looked very much like the old mini light wheels that you would see on sports cars from the continent. And it was, as you point out, not too big, not too small. The engine was just enough to be quick in a slow car fast kind of way, but not so fast that uh, that people in driving Trans Ams and Corvettes would consider, trading in their vehicles. And it captured the imagination in a way that um, few cars have in the modern era. Every car magazine lauded the thing as the second coming of affordable performance and sports cars and that sort of thing. My first exposure to the Mazda Miata came in July of 1989, shortly after they were introduced in America, and I was invited to drive Car and Driver's long-term Miata, which was red, in case you were wondering. And I spent a day driving around Ann Arbor, which is where the magazine was located at the time. And in fact, I produced a whole piece for the radio network I worked at the time about the Miata and what the editor at the time of Car and Driver saw as this sort of, renaissance of small, sporty performance coupes. Because at that time, you remember you had the Diamond Star cars, the Eclipse, the Eagle, Talon, and the Plymouth Laser, which weren't two-place cars, but they were 2+2, and they were sporty, and they had little engines. You had the Lotus Elan, which was about to come out. You had the Ford decided it needed to bring the Capri over from Australia to fill a gap there. You had a refreshed Alpha Spider. You had any number of other little cars. Honda had the CRX at the time, which was a revelation unto itself, really. I mean, it was really had the same kind of brief, though in a different package. And the first, couple of years or so, they sold a bunch of them, and they were worth, now to find a mint condition NA Miata, which is how the first generation is referred to, is kind of hard. A lot of them, as it turned out, went racing. And there are specific race classes that still operate for, all Miata race classes. And, even at some tracks, you can rent a Miata to race for the weekend. I know of a particular person who's near Road America in Wisconsin, who will bring a car haul away filled with race prep Miatas, and will offer up, you can rent a ride for 2 or 3, it's probably more than that now, a few $1,000s for a weekend, and they provide snacks and mechanics and that kind of thing, and you just get to get in and drive, which seems like a really seductive way to spend a weekend, honestly. But that Miata was really great, and I remember reading the logbook that was in the glove compartment at the time, and it was filled with, really lots of plaudits for the car, all of which were well deserved. And I, a 6'2" man, even fit behind the wheel of the thing. They really did get just about every detail right on it. It was the shifter on that NA Miata is probably the best manual transmission I've ever driven in my life. The shift lever itself it was like flicking a toggle switch. The action was so positive and direct, and the throws were really short. The car was terrific. Some years later, I wound up at a racing school operated by the old, now bankrupt and apparently revived at least one track that I can think of, the old Skip Barber Racing School down in Sebring, Florida, which runs a pretty well-known endurance race, 12 or 24 hours every year at a corner of this little town's airport. And so in our racing class, we drove race prepped Miatas. These were the NC Miatas. And they were chipped up to about 200 horsepower. And apart from some really good tires and some beefed up brakes, that was about it. And full roll cage and that kind of thing. And I spent 3 days throwing Miata number 43 around the track at Sebring on a weekend, and it was like I don't have I have no competition experience and very little racetrack experience, but it was super fun. It was such a great car to drive, easy to handle, easy to kick the tail out when one wanted to, even when one didn't want to. That happened to me a couple of times. And I think while no one would ever accuse a Miata of being blisteringly fast, I think I did get it up to about 115 or 120 on a straight, and that was plenty fast enough for me.
Sure.
And for the folks who were in the course with me, um, they're really terrific. And the thing is that um, one of the great things about the way the cars have been designed through all four generations now is that they are all extremely good looking. And Mazda has even sort of answered some of the, some of the concerns about Miata ownership. There's now one with a retractable hardtop or a target top that you can get, which improves the sort of cold weather desirability of the cars. Yeah, the engine's gotten a little bit bigger as the cars have gotten a little heavier, but they're not that much heavier. And there are a few more colors available now, fortunately, other than red, white, and blue. Eventually, they brought out a silver one, and then a black one, and then the special editions started. Um, the color to have on it though is still Soul Red, which is the best color Mazda has, and maybe one of the best colors available on a car anywhere right now.
Mhm.
They're magnificent little cars, and they are perfectly designed for their intended purpose. They are very much an embodiment of the kind of less is more attitude toward design. It's like the car has everything you need. The car is as big as you need it to be and as small as you want it to be, and the fact that you see so many of them still on the road after, now that's been out for 30 years,
Mm.
30 some odd 35 years. I mean, it says that they got it right. They got it right, and they're continuing to get it right. And their
Mhm.
commitment to keeping that car going, as so many other Halo cars, have this sort of, what are we going to make it? Oh, let's make it an electric crossover. Let's put the engine in the middle. Let's just put a
Mhm.
bigger and bigger and bigger Hemi in it. It is still the car that holds to its brief, and its designers and design teams know what it is and have kept
Mhm.
that flame going for a long time. And in this industry, that is to be celebrated.
Glenn, what are your impressions of the Miata over the years?
I hate this car. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No one hates this car. I mean, if you do hate the Miata, I would suggest talking to somebody about that because I mean, it's the Miata. It's just first off, when it came out in '89, with 90 being the big year that it sold, it was really lightning in a bottle. It was just
Yeah.
it's the car that everyone was talking about, and for good reason because it was a modern, brand new design that harkened all the way back to these classic designs from racetracks of yore. It was cool. And like Jeff said, I mean, my older brother had an MG midget and then sold it for an MGB. Terrific cars, horrendously bad repair records. Just he was constantly working on them, and thank God he knew how to fix a car because these cars constantly need to be fixed. And along comes a Japanese brand, they're going to be reliable. Mazda already had a good reputation, and they get something out on the road, you don't need to worry about that crap. And that's what, it's one of the things that everyone just immediately honed in on. Never mind the fact that it was just pretty, it was just cool. And I mean, it breathed fun. It reminded me the same vibe that the car had when it came out, that the Datsun 240Z had in its first
Mm.
few years. It had that same energy, where it was an it car. And God bless Mazda for never changing A, the lightning, or B, the bottle. You know,
Mhm.
they know they have a good thing and they've kept it going because we can't say the same thing with Nissan and the Datsun 240Z. They've tampered with the heck out of that car. And some years it's been good and other years it's been very muddy. But
And
they
and
they
and
they
some
did
years
that.
it's been basically invisible.
Right, precisely. A lot of years, lightning gone. they changed the bottle, changed the lightning, different thing. And the Miata, they definitely kept it going. Is it everybody's car? No, that's not the point, you know. But I did have an opportunity to drive an NA version years ago, and what Jeff said about the shifter, the gearbox, absolutely. And I owned 93 Mazda Protege LX, which is not the Miata. It's a little sedan, but it still has the same DNA. And I got to say, the shifter in what was really an economy car on that car was just flawless. And Mazda does this really well. They know their game, and this has been a part of it for years. And amen for them for keeping the same general lineage. I mean, 4 generations in 35 years, that's saying a lot. But I, two of my dearest friends just bought the Target Top in Soul Red, and I'm drooling. I'm drooling over this car. And it's their third car, and they take it out on weekends for fun. And I am extremely jealous of them. And if they're watching, I hate you a little for this. A little, not really.
And
I'm
if you're
happy.
watching, we're jealous of you for having a third car.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. They
Shout out
also,
to shout out to Kevin and Brian.
yeah, absolutely. They also have I don't know if they still do actually, but they had for years a vintage Alfa Romeo sitting under a
Oh, I
tarp in their garage
didn't
that
know
was,
that.
oh yeah, yeah, Brian has had
Oh,
this for a long time.
huh.
Never asked because I'm just too afraid. It'll be waking the sleeping giant. But yeah, their Miata is just, it's a gorgeous piece of machinery, and hats off to them, and hats off to Mazda. It's a classic. And
Mhm.
boy, you just, sure, you can change the bread or maybe the brand of bacon or the mayonnaise you're using, but a BLT is still a BLT is still a
Mhm.
BLT. So did I just
Yeah,
compare the Mazda to one of my favorite sandwiches?
Yes,
you
you
did.
did, Glenn.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
So I of the three of us have never driven a Mazda. I don't think I've ever been in one, to be fair, other than maybe at
Wow.
a car show. I've admired them from afar, and it occurs to me as we were talking that you see similarities between what the Miata did as a disruptor to that sports car, that roadster feel, is very similar to what the NSX, the Acura NSX did,
Mhm.
which then showed, hey, supercars can be well put together, reliable, air conditioning works, all that stuff, right? And and but Acura never followed through, right? They didn't really keep that sort of thing alive. And, for whatever reasons, we're not privy to the sales numbers or any of that, the costs and stuff. But, it just, the other thing I want to point out is that my sister-in-law has had a, a second gen in British Racing Green with a tan leather interior um, that they bought in the early 2000s, and they still own it. And it's, I believe it's the car, it's one of the cars that gets to be put in the garage in the winter. um, and my brother has talked about how she is emotionally attached to it. There's only the two of them. They have three cars, and up until recently, none of them held more than two people. But my brother got his F-150 Lightning, and he's very happy. So it's all good. But I think just I give Mazda. We've said this. I give Mazda so much credit for just staying in their lane, and because that's so hard. Look how many cars change over time, and grow bigger, and you can track any one of another a dozen, the 911s and 3 Series BMWs, and everything grows and changes, and something else takes its place. You know, and the other thing that I'll say, you don't, although they've talked about reviving it, you don't see the RX-7, and and which was at a different level in the sports car spectrum for Mazda, but had sort of that same uh, appeal. And and did get bigger, but I don't think it lost a lot of that magic along the way. And maybe I'm wrong. Um,
No, no, you're right. The RX-7/RX-8 was, I mean, that was kind of a groundbreaking sports car, particularly in that first generation, that that late 70s, what was it, 79, 80, I
mm,
think. Um, that was an amazing little car, and so incredibly handsome. The problem with the RX-7/RX-8 was what was happening under the hood.
right.
The rotary engine, while incredibly novel, was incredibly difficult. It was incredibly inefficient, which is a problem. It was kind of finicky, or could be finicky, if you didn't know what you were doing with it, which also a problem. And it was super revvy. Like, you really had to rev it in the time before Honda made VTEC Yo into a thing. You had to really hammer the thing in order to get it to move quickly. Not that hammering it was ever an unpleasant thing. At another driving school I attended, they used RX-8s to teach skid avoidance, or skid how to handle a skid. And I remember at the end of our particular session, our instructor turned around, and there were, of course, there were three of us in an RX-8, because they had the little suicide doors in the back, or I shouldn't call them that, the little half doors in the back. So we were packed in there. And the instructor turned around to us and said, "So we're done a little bit early. Do y'all want to learn how to power slide?"
Sure. Who's going to
Yes,
say
the answer
no?
was yes. I did
Yeah.
want to know how to power slide, and
Yeah.
did. Right, exactly. And it was a willing accomplice for that particular activity. But yeah, but the problem with the RXs is that that engine made them kind of too clever by half. Whereas the one of the beauties of the Miata is its mechanical simplicity.
Mhm.
It's not turbocharged. Um, it's not gummed up with a lot of stuff. There aren't a ton of, touch screens and that kind of thing. It's still pretty much a two-seat
Yeah.
sports car.
I would guess that outside of maybe the entertainment center, the radio, there's not a touch screen in the car.
Yeah,
And I don't
I
want
think
it.
that's right. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And good for them. Like,
Ah. And
it's
really, I mean, it is, while Mazda does have a kind of an engineering tie-up now with Toyota, and of course for years was partially owned by the Ford Motor Company. The fact that it has um, been able to kind of move to its own beat
Mhm.
over the past however many years, as the business has gotten more complicated and that kind of thing, is really something. Like, it's really that's really remarkable. And now particularly they seem to be moving their cars a little bit up market. Like, the interiors are getting a lot nicer. I was just in a
Mhm.
CX-50 not too long ago. And boy, that's a great car. Wow. The interior is really nice and really comfortable, and a step above like a Subaru Forester or something like that. Like, it's really
A,
nice.
a
And now
big
you can get it
step
with a
above.
hybrid, thanks to
Yeah.
Toyota.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, it's really something. And the fact that they can still do that, and that they're able to do that and still be relatively independent, like, that's pretty cool.
It remains to be seen what happens with Mazda with the tariff situation, because if memory serves, and I stand to be corrected, and I'll put a note down here below if I'm wrong, all their cars are built in Japan.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Glenn is looking it up.
Yes, I looked it up. I just did a Google search for Mazda built in US. Mazda assembles the CX-50 and CX-50 hybrid models at the Mazda Toyota Manufacturing MTM plant in Huntsville, Alabama, which I did not know until right now. So yeah, so they
Well,
do have a car here in the US,
And
sort of.
look, and any and any
Mm,
and any plant that shares initials of Mary Tyler Moore is thumbs
right,
up for me.
right. Hats off. There you go. Yeah.
Oh, very good, Glenn. Very good. Very
We're going to
good.
make it after all. We are.
Yeah, I think they will. Yes.
No, that was Carol Burnett that did this. Wrong
Oh,
funny
Mayor.
woman.
Oh, Mayor. All right.
Mr. Grant. Sorry, I had to go there.
Gentlemen, we are of an age.
Boy, you're not kidding.
All right. We're gonna bring it to a close this week. You can watch Car-Pinionated other episodes on our YouTube playlist. Gentlemen, as always, I appreciate you being here and joining me in this endeavor. And to the audience, thank you very much. And we will see you next time.